Welcome to Meet Me at the Movies. Noel T. Manning II here, and today we're going to dive into a list that is more than great cinema. It's actually a cinematic journey of faith, reflection, and spiritual resonance. We're really honored today to welcome back to the show Dr. Ken Moorfield. He's a film critic, a professor, and also a key long-term contributor to the Arts and Faith Top 100 Spiritually Significant Films. Whether you're new to this long-time list or this conversation is just getting started for you, we think that you're going to be inspired, challenged, and maybe even find yourself expanding what you may want to check out when you're thinking about spiritually significant films and what they mean. Ken, so good to have you with us. We really appreciate you spending time with us. It's always good to have you back on the show.
Thank you so much for having me here to talk about the Arts and Faith Top 100 Spiritually Significant Films.
I've been happy to be a part of this group for, I guess, a couple times I've been able to chime in on this. And Ken, for those that are unfamiliar, how did this Arts and Faith Top 100 list come about? And I guess it was back in 2004, is that right?
2004 was the first list. Those who are old like you and me may remember, like in the 1990s, there were a lot of listservs where discussion groups conducted themselves via email. In the early aughts, the artsandfaith.com site was a discussion forum where people could make an account, come in, and discuss film. The first iteration of the top 100 list was 2004, and then there was another one in 2005 and 2006, and those were all conducted by members of the discussion board. So anyone could join the discussion board, anyone could vote on the list. Subsequently in 2009 or 10, there was no list in 2007, 2008. Arts and Faith, the website, was the original moderator left, and it was subsumed by Image Magazine, and they ran it. So they had a same discussion board, same forum. They updated the list in 2010 and 2011. When Image Journal had some turnover and decided to no longer support the site, that was when I bought it, circa 2019. And we did an update of the list in 2020. Right around 2020, we retired the discussion board. The discussion migrated to Discord, and we kept the website as simply an archive for the results of the list and the results of the discussion. So people who go to artsandfaith.com now, what you will see is not a bunch of threads where we discuss the movies. That happens on Discord, but we'll see the results of our discussion and our vote.
Awesome. And when we look at these films, these are not from the standpoint of films that are designed for Christian audiences. They are, the term spiritually significant is something that is a kind of a solid foundational piece here. And so it's created from a Christian perspective, but again, the films are not considered Christian-based films. Talk a little bit about that, and talk a little bit about what spiritually significant means in the terms of those that are selecting and weighing in on these films.
Sure. So even with the name Arts and Faith, I think there was a deliberate attempt in the naming of the website to avoid the term Christian, even though the majority of people who were participating at the time were Christian. I think that was to help distinguish both the group and the films that we admired from the nascent Christian film industry, films presented by Pureflix, Sherwood, and whatnot, that were exclusively directed towards Christians. Similarly, spiritually significant was a way of trying to designate, we're not just voting on the top 100 films. BFI can do that, AFI can do that. There's no reason for us to say, but we did want to highlight or try to highlight films which were technically excellent, but also in some way resonated or spoke to us as viewers about spiritual issues. My wife complained once that, like, since human beings are spiritual beings as well as carnal beings, that really any film about the human experience is or can be spiritually significant. So that has come to mean over time, at least for me, a film that is overtly about religious faith or morality in some way, the characters or the content of it, or a film which invites spiritual contemplation. May not be overt, the characters may not be overtly spiritual, but are about issues that invite me to think about what does it mean to be a spiritual person. And then thirdly would be films which have been instrumental in the spiritual development of the voters. So around 2020, we had a longtime member named Darren Hughes who argued, I think persuasively, that the term arts and faith was as important as spiritually significant, that we weren't saying these are the most spiritually significant films of all time. These are the films that have been spiritually significant for us.
And Ken, for those who consider themselves a part of the Christian walk or the Christian faith, everybody's perspective to what that relationship means is different. And with that, and I think we definitely see this in the list and in the discussion as well, when you're kind of behind the scenes thinking through it. My particular faith walk would be different than yours, or maybe my next door neighbor, or maybe the person across the street. And our journeys are different, and the lives that we experience are also different. And because of that, different films, different pieces of art, literature, you name it, songs, all those things can speak to us in different ways and can move us in different ways. When this list was happening kind of behind the scenes, did you ever feel that there was some maybe discomfort in certain films that were chosen, or how maybe some of the jurors approached it, or was it all, hey, they realized, okay, this is my walk, this is my interpretation, I'm free to express what I want to express within these films?
So I would be reluctant to speak for, jurors as a whole. I think the answer there would be both yes and no. There's a two-part question in there. One of them would be that in the 2025 list, one of the significant things about this most recent update is that we had 30 voters. 15 of them, or about half the list, had never voted on an arts and faith list before, either a previous top 100, a top 25 theme list, or an arts and faith ecumenical jury. So there was understandably a lot more chatter than usual from new people wanting to make sure that they understood what are the parameters, what makes this eligible, like, am I out of line if I consider this particular film to be spiritually significant? And I had to do a little bit more than usual of saying, it really is up to you. It's not a definition that I make and that you apply. It's a definition that we make through curation and example. The second part of your question is, at least for me, yes, absolutely. There are always going to be films that one person finds, or one or more people find spiritually significant, and other people are like, either I don't see that, or I have a problem with that. The classic example for me personally would be Martin Scorsese's The Last Temptation of Christ, which I think was on the 2004, 2005 list, hadn't been on, was voted back in 2025. I personally don't think it's a very good film. I don't think it's Scorsese's, best film. It hasn't been spiritually significant for me.
Okay.
But if you look at the write-up on the arts, and each of the films that are voted in gets a write-up from a juror saying, here's why I found it spiritually significant. I think the juror makes a strong case as to why this is spiritually significant for me. So one of the communal aspects about this list that I really admire is it is a place not just of tribal identification, of like, yes, we are all in agreement that these are the great films and let's wave the flag for Christian films. But this is a place in which we can challenge each other about, like, not just say, this is my spiritual walk, but like, talk to me a little bit more about that. And
Yeah.
I think in some ways I personally profit more from the discussion or explanation of why someone finds a film spiritually significant than the exact films that are on the list or not. I think it's an invitation to consider how films interact with us spiritually and to talk to each other about that.
I love it. I love it. We are joined right here on Meet Me at the Movies with Dr. Ken Moorfield talking about the Arts and Faith Top 100 list of spiritually significant films. We're going to go to a quick intermission, and when we come back, we're going to highlight a few films that have stood the test of time throughout each list, and also we're going to uncover some of the surprises and maybe something that Ken feels is missing. So stick around. We'll be right back with more on Meet Me in the Movies right after this quick intermission.
Won't you come and meet me at the movies? Won't you come and watch a flick?
Love doesn't discriminate. It doesn't pick and choose. When there's so much to fight against, love fights for. When others flee, love runs toward. And when darkness prevails, love doesn't despair. It never feels too small or too weak or too powerless to help. Love knows its worth and remembers its strength. Love isn't pro this or pro that, but proactive and protective. It's never quick to rage, but always quick to courageous compassion. Love gives everything and expects nothing. For 156 years, the Salvation Army has loved all who feel lost. With your help, we'll never stop.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared. I mean, you're so...
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Won't you come and meet me at the movies? Won't you come and watch
Hello,
a
welcome back to Meet Me at the Movies. Noel T. Manning II here. I'm joined by Dr. Ken Moorfield as we continue to dive into the Arts and Faith Top 100 list of spiritually significant films. Don't make me try to say that 5 times fast because I don't know that I can. But Ken, thanks for joining us. Thanks for being back. And
Glad to
now
be here.
let's dive into some of these films. There's hundreds of films that are considered over the years because these films cover the entire. What's the time frame as far as
I think the
consideration?
earliest film on the list is Sunrise, A Song of Two Humans, which is probably 1922.
Okay, so
it may be Faust is a silent film, and I'm not sure of the exact date of Faust. So early 1920s. I think the most recent films added to the list were 2025 Wildcat and Flow were both 2025 films. So over 100 years.
Wow, that's amazing. Out of the list that you've had, there have been a few standout films that have popped up on every list, and I may have my numbers wrong, but have there been 18 featured on all 7 lists? Is that right?
Yes, that's
Okay.
if I count correctly. There have been 7 iterations of the top 100, and there have been 18 films that have been on all 7 of them, the 2004 list through the 2025 list. There would probably be a couple more, except for the fact that the 2020 list, voters chose to limit it to 1 film per director. So a couple, for instance, The Passion of Joan of Arc, which was number 1 on the 2025 list, wasn't on the 2020 list. That was the only list that it didn't make, simply because Carl Theodor Dreyer's Ordet was selected as being the representative for that director. But there were 18 films that have been on all 7 lists, even as voters have changed and as times have changed. And I refer to them kind of unofficially as the arts and faith canon. You know?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about. Give me a handful of those that
Sure.
stand out. Maybe
So I
for
would
you or stand
divide-
out to
yeah.
them. Sure.
I would divide the canon into 3 rough categories. I would say the first category would be neorealism and transcendental style. Not to get too technical in there, but one big difference between the 2004 list and the 2005 list that you can see right away is the 2004 list was much more heavily invested in American studio films, and the 2005 to 2020 list had a lot more world cinema. Neorealism, I won't bore you with the definition. Your readers can look that up if they don't know. Transcendental style refers to the films singled out by Paul Schrader in his book Transcendental Style in Cinema, which speak to the influence of Carl Theodor Dreyer, Robert Bresson, Ozu. So really, films by those authors or those directors, and that follow from their tree. Yeah, by follow from their tree, I would mean like film Rosetta, which was the number 1 film in 2005 by the brothers Dardenne, are clearly influenced by Bresson. So I think you get those 2 schools and their influences. Classic example would be Robert Bresson's Diary of a Country Priest, which has been on all 7 lists, or Carl Theodor Dreyer's Ordet, which has been on all 7 lists. I think you then get sort of classic American studio films like It's a Wonderful Life has been on all 7 films, rose to number 2 in the 2025 list. I wrote down some notes here because I knew
please.
that you were gonna
Please.
gonna ask me about that in terms of the category. Paul Thomas Anderson's Magnolia has been on all 7 lists, so not classic Hollywood studio, but either contemporary American auteur films. Krzysztof Kieslowski's Blue, or the Three Colors trilogy, has been on all 7 lists. So I think what you end up getting in terms of the canon would be some classics of cinema that would appear on a BFI and an AFI list, such as Bicycle Thieves, And I think the third category would be the American studio films, and then the third category would be films that are just overt in their representation of religious or Christian themes. I'm thinking of Pasolini's The Gospel According to St. Matthew, which I think there were like 7 Jesus films on the 2025 list.
Wow.
But Pasolini's The Gospel of St. Matthew has been the Jesus film that's been on all of the lists. So some viewers, some years are like, yeah, we want Jesus of Nazareth or The Last Temptation of Christ. But voters consistently have said, for a Bible film or a film particularly about the gospel narrative, this is the one that we prefer. I think The Miracle Maker has been on like 6 of the 7, which is another overtly gospel film or Christian film.
I think any time that you explore these new lists, I mean, films come out every year, and so when you have these gaps, there are things that resonate with those who are voting differently, and then when you have new voters in, it does change the complexion of things. So let's talk about how this list.
Before we do that, can I add one more thing about the canon?
Sure.
One of the things that surprises me then about the canon would be there's 2 films on the canon that surprise me because they are neither from canonical directors like Bresson or Osu, nor specifically gospel films, and that would be The Apostle, starring Robert Duvall, and Babette's Feast, directed by Gabriel Axel. I think the film Ponette has also been on all 7 films. Those really interest me as kind of discoveries because I would anticipate Bergman, Scorsese, or someone, or the giant auteurs to be represented in there. But these films would be not necessarily, those would be 2 films that I wasn't surprised to see them on any one list, but surprised that there has been absolute consensus over a 20-year period that yes, this is a film. I think Chariots of Fire is another one, that people have consistently said, don't always think about this as being an auteur-driven film, but nevertheless has been consistently on there.
But the list does change.
Yes.
So, and thinking about that as these over 7 different variations of this, what do you think were the biggest changes this year? But actually, before we get to that, you and I have talked, and there's something that you feel is missing from this list as far as a representation standpoint. Let's talk about that, and then maybe talk about a couple of the surprises. We've got about 6 minutes, so just wanted to give you a chance.
The answer, I can answer both at the same time. Which is to say the biggest change for me in this list is that there seemed to have been a correction from a predominant emphasis on world cinema to the reincorporation of populist films or American films. M. Night Shyamalan's Signs rejoined the list after 20 years. The Matrix rejoined the list after 20 years. The Lord of the Rings films rejoined the list after 20. These were all films that were on the original 2004 list, went away as it became more world cinema, and then now seem to be having another generation of critics coming back in and saying, we want a little bit more balance between American studio films and world films. The thing that has been missing within there has been, I think, representation of female directors, and maybe to a lesser extent directors of color. The directors of color or non-white directors, of course, overlaps with the world cinema. We lost, say, Manu Rangobo, a very strong African film, which then we lost. There's some question as to whether Persian is, people of color, but we lost Kiarostami's Close Up, which had been on all 6 lists up until this one. There was a pronounced attempt to integrate more female-led films. I think the 2019 film had 6 films directed by female. The 2025 one initially had, I think, only 2. And then we, as a result, after the first round of voted to cap the director's entries to no more than 2 films by the same director, which opened up 5 additional slots, and we gave those to the highest scoring films by female directors or non-white directors to try to have a little bit more cultural diversity. But the fact that we nominated a lot more female-directed films but didn't vote them in is still something that concerns me about the process and that I haven't fully understood. Because I do think people were legitimately trying to and advocating for them, but there doesn't seem to be as much consensus as to which of the films that we wanted.
Ken, this has been really fascinating. I wish we had more time to dive in deeper. The list itself, you can find that. Where's the best place they can find that? artsandfaith.com?
Yeah, http artsandfaith.com. And you can see copies of all 7 lists, and each list will have a link to a write-up by a juror explaining why that individual film is deemed to be spiritually significant.
And if people wanted just to follow your journey out there from a standpoint of your exploration of film, do you have any social media accounts that you want to let people know about, or you want to send people just directly to Arts and Faith?
They can find me at One More Film Blog. That's my web presence. That's the number 1, and then the word More Film Blog. Actually, if you just Google Kenneth Moorfield, it will take you there. Within there, you can also go to Arts and Faith to send me a message to request an invite to the Discord community if you want to join the discussion.
Awesome. Ken, thanks again. I really appreciate it. And for our audience out there, whether you're looking for stories that may wrestle with meaning, stir your soul, or challenge your perspective, the Arts and Faith Top 100 Spiritually Significant Film really can offer you a cinematic pilgrimage worth taking. So again, Dr. Ken Moorfield, thanks for joining us, sharing your insights and sharing more about this list and the history of this list as well. You can again, check out that full list at artsandfaith.com, and you can begin your journey into spiritually significant storytelling. For Meet Me in the Movies, I'm Noel T. Manning II, and for this week, for C19 TV, that's a wrap.
Many films to view until we meet again. Next time we see you, we'll gladly fill you in. We'll tell about the happy and the sad ones. We'll talk about the good ones and the bad ones. Many films to view till we meet again.